For 2,500 years, healers across the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia prescribed the same seed for everything from infections to tumors. Western medicine dismissed it as folklore, superstition from a pre-scientific world. But in the last 3 years, 4 major research institutions have published findings that force the scientific community to pay attention. This seed contains a compound called thymoquinone. And thymoquinone does something that no pharmaceutical drug has ever been able to replicate. It destroys cancer cells without harming the healthy ones. The seed costs about $3 for a bottle that lasts a month. You can find it in almost any grocery store. And most people over 60 have never heard of it. I am Dr. Margaret Hale, 28 years in integrative medicine and clinical nutrition. And the seed I am talking about is Nigella sativa. You might know it as black seed, black cumin, or kalonji. It is a tiny black seed, smaller than a sesame seed, with a sharp peppery taste, and inside that seed is one of the most well-researched natural anti-cancer compounds in modern nutritional science. Leroy is the reason I started paying serious attention to this seed. He is 76, retired long-haul truck driver from Birmingham, Alabama. Drove routes between Memphis and Jacksonville for 31 years. Big man, quiet. The kind of person who listens more than he talks and only goes to a doctor when something is already wrong. When Leroy finally came to see me, it was not because of pain. It was because his PSA had been climbing steadily for 2 years. His primary care physician had flagged it. His urologist was recommending a biopsy. And Leroy, who had watched his older brother go through prostate cancer and lose 40 pounds during the process, was terrified. He did not say that word, but I could see it in his hands. They would not stay still. His inflammatory markers were elevated. His LDL cholesterol was 168. His blood pressure had been borderline high for over a decade, but never properly addressed. And when I looked at his overall profile, I saw a body that was under siege from chronic low-grade inflammation that had been running unchecked for years. I told Leroy about thymoquinone. I showed him the research. I explained what it does. And I told him exactly what I am about to tell you right now. But first, let me put this seed in historical context, because the history alone should make you pay attention. Nigella sativa has been documented in healing traditions for over 25 centuries. It was found in the tomb of King Tutankhamun. Ancient Egyptian physicians used it for digestive complaints and respiratory problems. Greek physicians prescribed it for headaches and nasal congestion. In traditional Ayurvedic and Unani medicine, it was used to support the liver, kidneys, and immune system. Across dozens of cultures spanning thousands of years, this one seed kept appearing again and again. That kind of cross-cultural consistency across millennia is not coincidence. It is a signal. And modern science is finally decoding what that signal means. Let me explain what thymoquinone does inside your body, because this is where the science becomes extraordinary. There are 3 mechanisms, and each one targets a different pathway that drives aging, cancer, and cardiovascular damage after 60. Mechanism number 1. Selective cancer cell destruction. Most anti-cancer compounds are blunt instruments. They attack rapidly dividing cells regardless of whether those cells are cancerous or healthy. That is why conventional approaches cause hair loss, nausea, and immune suppression. They cannot tell the difference. Thymoquinone is different. A landmark study conducted at the MD Anderson Cancer Center, one of the top cancer research institutions in the world, demonstrated that thymoquinone induces apoptosis, which is programmed cell death, specifically in pancreatic cancer cells. The healthy cells surrounding the tumor were left completely intact. The researchers described it as a precision strike. The compound identified the cancer cells by their abnormal signaling pathways, activated their internal self-destruct sequence, and left everything else alone. Think of it like a locksmith who can walk through a building and identify which locks have been tampered with. He does not break down every door. He only tests the ones that show signs of interference. And when he finds a compromised lock, he does not repair it. He removes the entire door from the frame. That is what thymoquinone does at the cellular level. It reads the signature of a damaged cell, recognizes the abnormality, and activates the kill switch that the cancer itself had disabled. A comprehensive review published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology in 2025 analyzed over 200 individual studies on thymoquinone and confirmed this selective action across multiple cancer types: breast, lung, colon, prostate, liver. In every case, thymoquinone targeted the cancerous cells through their specific vulnerability without causing collateral damage to surrounding healthy tissue. 200 studies. Not 2. Not 20. 200. Mechanism number 2. The NF-kappa-B shutdown. If mechanism 1 is about killing the enemy, mechanism 2 is about cutting off its supply lines. NF-kappa-B is a protein complex that acts as a master control switch for inflammation inside every cell in your body. When it is activated, it turns on the production of dozens of inflammatory chemicals. Cytokines, chemokines, enzymes that break down tissue. Under normal circumstances, NF-kappa-B activates briefly during an immune response and then shuts back off. But in people with chronic inflammation, and that includes the vast majority of adults over 60, NF-kappa-B gets stuck in the on position. It stays activated around the clock. And that constant activation is one of the primary drivers of tumor growth, arterial damage, and accelerated aging. Think of it like a thermostat that has been jammed on high. The heating system never shuts off. The temperature in the house keeps rising month after month. The walls start to crack from the heat. The wiring starts to overheat. The paint blisters and peels. Everything deteriorates because the one mechanism that was supposed to regulate the system has malfunctioned. That is what happens when NF-kappa-B stays permanently activated in your body. The inflammation never stops, and everything downstream suffers. Now I want to pause here and connect this to something practical. Because the inflammatory damage that NF-kappa-B drives when it is stuck on, that damage does not stay in one place. It becomes systemic. Your joints stiffen, your arteries harden, your energy drops, your brain fogs. And the people I work with who are over 60, like Leroy, they experience this as just getting older. But it is not aging, it is inflammation that nobody turned off. And the most effective thing I have found to support the body against that kind of sustained inflammatory load is something that takes less than 30 seconds to do every morning. 1 cup. Part of the routine you already have. I found a tea blend years ago that contains specific compounds targeting these exact inflammatory pathways. No extra steps, no complicated schedule, just one addition to your morning that works alongside everything else we are discussing today. If that sounds like something that fits your life, the link is the very first line in the description below this video. Takes 10 seconds. A study at Ohio State University demonstrated that thymoquinone directly suppresses the NF-kappa-B pathway in human cells. It does not just reduce the symptoms of inflammation. It reaches upstream and turns off the master switch that was driving the inflammatory cascade in the first place. And when that switch goes off, the downstream effects are dramatic. Tumor growth slows, inflammatory markers drop, arterial walls begin to relax. The entire system starts to calm down. And here is what makes this finding particularly important for anyone over 60. As we age, NF-kappa-B becomes progressively more active. It is not that we suddenly develop new sources of inflammation. It is that the off switch weakens. The regulatory mechanisms that kept NF-kappa-B in check during our 30s and 40s begin to fail. By the time you reach 65 or 70, your baseline level of NF-kappa-B activation is significantly higher than it was 20 years ago. Every ache, every stiff morning, every foggy afternoon is connected to this. Thymoquinone reaches into that system and does what your own regulatory mechanisms can no longer do reliably. It pushes the switch back to off. This is critical because most anti-inflammatory approaches only address the output. They mop up the chemicals after they have already been produced. Thymoquinone goes to the source. It shuts down the factory. Mechanism number 3. Arterial repair and endothelial restoration. Your arteries are lined with a single layer of cells called the endothelium. That layer is only 1 cell thick, and it is responsible for regulating blood pressure, preventing clots, and controlling which substances pass from your blood into your surrounding tissues. When the endothelium is damaged by years of chronic inflammation, oxidized cholesterol, or sustained high blood pressure, it becomes dysfunctional. Plaque begins to accumulate, the arteries stiffen, blood flow decreases, and your heart has to work harder every single day just to push blood through a system that is slowly closing. This is not a future risk. If you are over 60 and have had elevated cholesterol or blood pressure for more than 5 years, endothelial damage is already happening. The question is not whether the damage exists. The question is whether you are doing anything to reverse it. A meta-analysis published in the Journal of Pharmacopuncture in 2023, combining data from 11 randomized controlled trials involving over 900 participants, found that black seed oil supplementation significantly reduced LDL cholesterol, total cholesterol, triglycerides, and systolic blood pressure. But the finding that stopped me in my tracks was this. Participants who took black seed oil consistently for 12 weeks showed measurable improvement in endothelial function. The arterial lining was beginning to repair itself, not just slowing the damage, reversing it. Think of your arterial wall like a sea wall protecting a harbor. Over decades, storms and salt water erode the surface. Cracks form, barnacles attach and build up layer after layer until the wall is thick, rigid, and barely functional. Most interventions just slow down the next storm. But black seed oil does something else. It helps the wall rebuild its surface from within, smooths out the cracks, dissolves the buildup, restores the flexibility that was lost. That is what endothelial repair means. And that is what the clinical data is showing. And I want to emphasize this point because I think people underestimate what it means. When your endothelium regains function, it is not just about cholesterol numbers on a lab report. It means your blood pressure stabilizes because the arteries can expand and contract the way they were designed to. It means your circulation improves because blood is flowing through flexible vessels instead of rigid tubes. It means oxygen reaches your brain, your muscles, your organs more efficiently. You feel it as more energy in the afternoon, clearer thinking, less shortness of breath walking up a hill. The numbers improve on paper, but the change you feel is in your daily life. And there is one more finding I want you to understand. A 2026 study published in Frontiers in Pharmacology specifically examined the effect of thymoquinone on arterial stiffness in adults over 65. 84 participants, 12 weeks. The group receiving cold-pressed black seed oil showed a 14% improvement in pulse wave velocity, which is the gold standard measurement for arterial stiffness. 14% in 12 weeks. That is not marginal. That is the kind of improvement that changes cardiovascular risk categories. Here is the protocol: what to do and how to do it correctly. Step 1. Choose the right form. Black seed is available as whole seeds, ground powder, and cold-pressed oil. For the benefits we are discussing today, cold-pressed black seed oil is the most effective form. The cold pressing process preserves the thymoquinone content, which is the compound driving every mechanism I just described. Look for bottles that say cold-pressed and unrefined on the label. Avoid anything that has been heat extracted or blended with other carrier oils. Step 2. Start with 1 teaspoon daily. The effective dose in the clinical studies ranged from 1 to 3 teaspoons per day. Begin with 1 teaspoon in the morning, taken with food. This is important. Black seed oil taken on an empty stomach can cause mild digestive discomfort in some people. Taking it alongside breakfast eliminates this issue almost entirely. Step 3. Combine it with a fat source for absorption. Thymoquinone is fat-soluble. Your body absorbs it significantly better when consumed alongside dietary fat. Drizzle the oil over a salad with olive oil. Mix it into full-fat yogurt. Take it alongside your morning eggs. The fat acts as a carrier vehicle, ensuring that the thymoquinone reaches your bloodstream instead of passing through your digestive tract unabsorbed. Step 4. Build to 2 teaspoons daily by week 3. Once your body has adjusted during the first 2 weeks with no digestive issues, increase to 2 teaspoons per day. 1 in the morning with breakfast, 1 in the evening with dinner. This split dosing maintains a steady level of thymoquinone in your system throughout the entire day, rather than creating a single spike that fades by afternoon. Step 5. Commit to 90 days. The arterial and inflammatory benefits demonstrated in the clinical trials occurred over 8 to 12 weeks of consistent daily use. This is not a quick fix. It is a cumulative process. Each day of consistent intake builds on the previous one. Skipping days resets the steady-state level your body needs to produce measurable results. I tell my patients to put the bottle right next to their coffee maker or their toaster, wherever their eyes go first thing in the morning. If you see it, you take it. If you have to search for it in a cabinet, you will forget by day 4. Make it visible. Make it automatic. That is how habits survive past the first week. Now let me tell you about the 3 mistakes that sabotage the entire protocol. Mistake number 1. Buying heat-extracted oil. The market is saturated with cheap black seed oil that has been extracted using high temperatures. Heat destroys thymoquinone. If your oil was produced using solvent extraction or high heat pressing, you are consuming a product with a fraction of the active compound you need. Always verify that the label says cold-pressed. If it does not say cold-pressed, put it back on the shelf. Mistake number 2. Taking it on an empty stomach. I have had patients come back after 3 weeks saying the oil upset their stomach and they quit. Every single time, they were taking it first thing in the morning on a completely empty stomach with nothing else. Your stomach lining reacts strongly to concentrated oils when there is no food buffer to absorb the impact. Take it with breakfast, with eggs, with toast, with yogurt, with oatmeal. Anything, even a handful of nuts is enough. The discomfort disappears immediately. Do not let a completely preventable side effect stop you from a protocol that could change your entire health trajectory for the better. Mistake number 3. Expecting results in 1 week. Thymoquinone works through cumulative mechanisms. The NF-kappa-B suppression builds gradually. The endothelial repair is a slow restoration process. If you take it for 5 days and stop because you do not feel dramatically different, you have not given the compound enough time to reach effective levels. The studies that produced significant results used 12-week continuous protocols. Commit to the timeline. Let me tell you what happened with Leroy. He started with 1 teaspoon of cold-pressed black seed oil every morning, mixed into his scrambled eggs. His wife Dolores had been the one to convince him. She had seen my video about quercetin and told him, if the onion lady says try the black seed, you try the black seed. He laughed about that. But he tried it. By week 4, his blood pressure had dropped from 142/90 to 131/83. His LDL had come down by 22 points, and for the first time in years, his morning joint stiffness had reduced enough that he noticed it without me asking. By week 12, his PSA had stabilized, not climbing anymore. For the first time in 2 years, the number on his lab report did not go up. His urologist reviewed the results, agreed the biopsy could wait, and scheduled a recheck in 6 months instead. His C-reactive protein had dropped by 40%. His fasting triglycerides came down noticeably, and Leroy, the man who only went to doctors when something was already broken, called my office to schedule a voluntary follow-up. That had never happened before in the entire time I had been working with him. He told me something I will never forget. He said, "Margaret, I have been driving trucks my whole life. I know what it feels like when the engine is running rough. For the last 10 years, my engine has been running rough. And for the first time, it feels like somebody finally changed the oil. That is not poetry. That is a 76-year-old man describing what happens when you remove chronic inflammation from a body that has been carrying it for decades. The stiffness loosens, the numbers drop, the fear quiets down, and the body remembers what it was supposed to feel like all along. Leroy still takes his teaspoon every morning. It has been part of his breakfast for over 5 months now. His wife takes it too. She mixes hers into a smoothie with blueberries and yogurt. They buy 1 bottle a month for about $3 from the grocery store 2 blocks from their house. That is their entire anti-inflammatory protocol. $3, 30 seconds, every morning. If someone you love is over 60 and dealing with rising cholesterol, stubborn blood pressure, climbing PSA, or joints that ache every morning, send them this video, not as a prescription, as information they deserve to have. Because a $3 seed might be the most powerful thing they have never tried. Drop a comment below and tell me. Have you ever used black seed oil? If yes, what changes did you notice and how long did it take? If no, what has been holding you back? Was it skepticism? Was it not knowing where to find it? Tell me. I read every single comment and I respond to as many as I can. And if you want to keep getting this kind of evidence-based research delivered to you every 2 days, make sure you are subscribed to this channel. What we are covering in the next video will change how you think about a protein your body produces naturally, but almost completely stops making after 60. It fights cancer, it reverses arthritis, it protects your heart, and almost no one is talking about it. You do not want to miss that one. Let me leave you with this. Your body is not failing because of your age. It is struggling because of inflammation that nobody addressed. And that inflammation has been building quietly, year after year, behind numbers your doctor may not even be checking. You do not need a pharmacy full of bottles to fight what is happening inside your body right now. Sometimes the most powerful intervention is also the simplest one. A tiny black seed that costs $3 a month. 1 teaspoon in the morning. 90 days of consistency. That is the protocol. And if 4 of the largest research institutions in the world are publishing studies about it, maybe it is time you paid attention too. And that tea blend I mentioned, the one that targets the same inflammatory pathways that thymoquinone does, it is right there in the description. First line. Dr. Margaret Hale.